Hello everyone. Today I'll be starting with the next topic in software testing. So this consists of a model of software testing process, stages of software testing, development testing and unit testing. So basically the model of software testing process consists of the following diagram, which is having the design of test cases, preparation of test data, run the program with the test data and compare the results with test data and test cases. So here what actually happens is whenever a customer comes and gives his requirements, then what actually happens is you need to identify at the time of requirements collection itself what can be the test cases that can be used while testing your software. So there you need to design the test cases. That will be your first step. Next, what you need to do is, using these test cases, you need to identify which test data you can test with those test cases. That will be your next step. Once that is done, the test data should be taken and you need to run your program. Once the program is run, you will have results. These results should be compared with what results you are expecting from the software. So if both are same, then it is well and good. Otherwise, you need to identify where the mistake has happened. So you need to prepare a test report out of this particular inspections. So next we'll proceed ahead with the stages of testing. It consists of three phases. Basically the first one is the development testing, where you need to test the system during development. That is what while collecting the requirements you need to check the requirements, are they proper or not. Then comes is with respect to design, checking the design. Then finally writing the code, check the code, and then finally you need to deliver it. That is the development testing. Second one is release testing. Release testing is related to once the software is developed, you need to deliver the software to the customer. Before delivering it to the customer, you give your software to some other team which is not at all related to your team. So they need to go through your code, they need to go through your design, they need to go through your requirements specification, and they need to check whether it is as per the requirement given by the user. So then they will say that yes, this is perfectly working. That is called as release testing. It can be released now to the customer. Last one is the user testing, wherein users, what they do is they have to either come to the place where actually software is developed, or otherwise you have to install the software at the place of the user. Users will come and give their inputs and they check whether the software is working properly or not. Then they will say that yes, it is as per our requirement, it can be installed. Then it can be fully functional system. So let me elaborate what is development testing. So development testing, as I already told you, it is consisting of all the testing activities that are carried out during development process. It again consists of three parts. First one is unit testing, second one is component testing, third one is system testing. So unit testing, basically it is consisting of testing all the units in the program. Units means what? It can be an object class or it can be some method which is used within the program. And second one is component testing, so where several individual components are integrated to create composite components. So for example, if a student needs to fill one form for examination purpose, so that exam form, maybe he is seeing the front end wherein he is putting his name, USNs, rest other details, so many details he is putting. So what actually happens is there can be several objects which may be interacting through that particular component. So this is actually called as component testing. You need to test all the components associated with that particular form. Third one is system testing, where once the system is completely developed, you need to integrate all the components of the system and then you check whether it is working as per your need or not. So now let us see what is unit testing. As I already told you, unit testing is process of testing individual components, where it mainly focuses on identifying is there any defect in your program. So units can be like individual functions, methods or object classes, or sometimes it can be composite components. So if we consider the object class itself as one part of the unit testing process, so what actually happens is if we consider one class, what testing can be done on this particular class. So here we can test all the operations associated with an object. So an object can be in different states, it may go through several operations, maybe many programs may be using this particular object, it may be changing its state, that needs to be checked. And then what are the attributes which are defined for the object, whether all the attributes are properly used, and is there any attribute which is not functioning as per our needs, that also needs to be checked. And then we need to check finally what are the different states in which an object is going through. If every test is passed, then only we can say that the test is successful. There is one problem which an object class testing usually come across, that is inheritance. So inheritance, what actually happens here is maybe one object may be inherited to another object, one class is inherited to another class. So then it can create lots of problems while designing the test cases. So let us see one particular object interface, how actually it looks like. This is one weather station object interface, or you can say one object class. It is having so many number of methods which are defined, like report weather, report status, power save, remote control, reconfigure, restart, shutdown. These all methods needs to be tested before we say that this particular object is free from any types of errors, or it is eligible to be used with the customer. So when we consider that weather station, so it has to go through several, say weather station class has to go through several stages or several states. For example, shutdown, running, shutdown. So you just have to check whether after shutdown state, whether it enters into the running state, or simply again if you press the shutdown, you should not again think that it should go into shutdown state, or it is already running. If you press again running state, it should not enter into running state. And sometimes you may have states like configuration state or configuring state to running state to test state, then to transmitting state. So what actually happens is there is a sequence. Whether that sequence is followed, when I make a call to an object or when the object is called in different states, how actually it is changing its states, that needs to be checked. And then we can say that it is functioning properly. Sometimes we may wonder that how all these tests are to be run, because it may take lots of amount of time, lots of test cases needs to be given. 10 years back, this was actually the situation. So many software engineers were hired for testing purpose only. But now the situation is totally changed. Everything is done with the help of some particular automation framework tools. JUnit is one of the such a tool. Using that we can write our program test cases. So what actually happens here is, suppose if we are going ahead with unit testing frameworks, so that provides some general test classes. So you can convert those generic test classes into specific classes, and then you can use it. Like a medical shop owner, he wants to purchase one software. A software company prepares a software which can be used by any medical shop owner. Then when it is delivered to a specific medical shop owner, that needs to be changed, like his shop or the tablets which he is keeping. So if it is a specific medical shop, what are the small changes that needs to be done, that needs to be tweaked, and that can be used. Similar to that, while designing the test cases, generic test classes can be converted into specific test cases, and which can be utilized for testing using unit testing. Automated testing has well-defined process, and within this process there are some components. Say first one is a setup part, where you need to initialize your system with what test cases you want to include, along with inputs and what are your expected outputs. Second one is a call part, where you are going to call the object or method to be tested. Which one you want to call and which object you want to test, that needs to be specified in the call part. And finally an assertion part, where you need to compare the result of the call part with the expected part. If the assertion evaluates to true, the test has been successful, else it is false, the test has been failed. Like that we can give the final report. Then what is the advantage of unit test? So that is unit test effectiveness. Basically what actually happens is, whenever you do the testing, these test cases will help you to know whether your components are working as per your requirement. If it is not working, then it can be changed. So then what actually happens is, sometimes there may be some defects which can be tested at the early stage. So actually this actually leads us to two types of unit test cases. First one is totally related to the program, as per the requirement of the user, whether program takes the input and gives the output or not. Second one, experience. Based on experience, you know that for certain set of inputs, some programs won't work properly. You can test that with the help of this particular unit test case example. Actually, there are two strategies which are used during testing process. First one is called as partition testing. Second one is called as guidelines based testing. Partition testing, what actually does is it partitions the data into several clusters. These clusters consist of input data which are somewhat similar. So for example, if I consider an electric company which is accepting the bills of the customer based on certain criteria, certain slabs. So for example, those customers who are using electric units within 1 to 100 range, they will be paying 2 rupees. From 101 to 150, they are charging for first 100 units, it's 2 rupees. 101 to 150 units, they are charging 3 rupees. From 150 to 200 units, they are charging 4 rupees per unit. Like that, there are certain slabs. So what actually happens is, while preparing the test data, for 1 to 100 units, I can take some input from that. Rather than taking each and every one as an input, what I'll give is maybe 20, 30, 40, like that I can give the input. For 101 to 150, I'll take again 2-3 inputs. Again, I'll give them as inputs to my test data and test case. And third one is like 151 to 200 also, I do the similar thing. Like that, I have partitioned my data and I'll be giving certain inputs as test cases. Next one is guidelines based testing. It is based on the experience of previous software test engineers who have experienced some types of errors while working with similar software. So they give certain set of inputs. Maybe it is with respect to divide by zero, maybe with respect to response time, maybe with respect to some other issues which are common for all the softwares of similar type. So using guideline based testing also we can make the testing. In our next session, I'll be discussing on partition testing, testing guidelines, component testing. Thank you.